Hi nerds, and welcome back to the Corner of Remnant. I'm your host Larissa, and joined by co-host Emperial Dawn.
I'm on the phone, apparently.
Yes, and we're back with discussing episode 7 of RWBY Volume 9. We've had some slight tech issues, so yes,
This is the best solution I could come up with. My headphones not working.
My headphones are not working. But it's okay.
I hope it doesn't come through on your guys' end.
I can't hear it on my end, so it should be okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I just listened into the stream. I think it's okay.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Yes. We've got a lot to unpack in this episode.
Yes.
And we both don't really... Well, Dawn has some notes, and I don't have any notes.
I don't think what I have is basically equivalent to what John's to-do list was.
Yeah.
It's a absolute mumble of a mess I used to bloody swiping just desktop keyboard mechanics to write some notes and a few copied tweets. That's the best I could do.
Yeah. I was going to do some notes, but just I didn't get to it. But I have rewatched the episode, and when I was doing my reaction as well, I rewatched it during that too. So, yeah. Speaking of which as well, so we are recording this a bit earlier. We are doing this on Friday for us instead of Saturday because of the Easter weekend. So my RWBY reaction will be out as normal, but when that goes out, this will be out too. So, yeah. And also, to say, so there was a warning on episode 7 about that it's going to have things that could be distressing to some viewers.
Yeah.
So always look after your mental health. If you don't feel like you're in the right space, you might want to hold off watching the episode if you haven't already. So, and especially with future episodes too. This probably might be the last one with that warning. So definitely look after yourself too. Yeah, because I think we're going to definitely be going down some dark paths here at the end of the volume. So we've got past all the happy fairy tale goodness, and we're now into the nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah, and if that was fairy tale goodness, then the dark stuff's gonna be rough.
It's gonna be rough. Yeah. We got what we wanted in episode 6. Well, most of us wanted, the Bumblebee kiss. So that was all happy and everything, and now this episode.
I got what
sad.
I wanted this episode.
Yes,
which is why the warning is not for people like me. I'm the sick people. I'm the crazy people that wanted everything we got this episode.
Yes.
And what we're going to get for future episodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're all lovey-dovey stuff. The nice people, the good people of the world, they were happy last episode. The sick people was happy this episode.
Well, we love this sort of thing because it's a lot of character growth as well, and it was written really well. I also want to say that this episode was written really well. It was really well paced.
I believe this was Miles' episode. I believe. I'll double check that.
I think I did see a tweet about that. Yeah. When I was looking through trying to find some other
Makes sense. It's a bit of a genre-centric episode that Miles would get to write
Absolutely. Yeah,
that
yeah.
Makes sense. But I'll double check that.
And the voice acting, of course, always on point, but absolutely.
Voice acting's so good.
So good. Yeah. And the animation and everything was done really well. It's good as well. Everything's just perfect. It's so good. We're at episode 7 of the volume and everything's perfect.
It was written by Miles this episode. Yeah.
It was? Cool, yeah. I thought I saw something about that, so yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did tweet about it earlier in the week, so that makes sense.
And this was hyped up as well.
Yes.
It was funny, like, after my reaction, when I recorded, I was like, I'm still not sure about this episode, because I was feeling a bit, hurt after watching it. But I wouldn't say it's my favourite episode, but it's good. It's good. It was just, I think, even though with the warning, it was still a bit of a shock, and we were expecting Ruby's meltdown happen at some point.
Oh yeah, I mean this is something the whole show is built towards.
Yeah,
especially the last few volumes. This is something that was going to happen. It had to happen.
It had to happen. It was gonna happen.
Yeah. And it's very real. And there's a lot of things in the episode are very real, and a lot of people can't understand that.
Yeah.
A lot of people have to take sides, and this is not a situation about taking sides. This is just a situation about understanding where everyone sits and why everyone has the opinions they have.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing.
Yeah.
And if you think RWBY is homophobic, then you're an idiot.
Oh god, no.
Stop watching stuff out of context.
I saw some comments about that.
Of all the Twitter things I've seen this week, that was the dumb one.
It would have been the same if one of them was a dude, It was just the fact that that everything's all good, you guys are all together now and everything, that's all happy, and I'm still, you know, working through my shit here. No one seems to be noticed me going in this spiral downhill.
Which, it's definitely, again, like, I remember when I saw that particular scene where RWBY mentions that towards Zombie, I was like, you know, again, as someone who wasn't, you know, the biggest shipper in that regard, it definitely was like, to me, it was like, you know what, RWBY, I feel that.
Yeah.
There's other shit going on.
There is other shit going on. Other shit's going on. Yeah. And, why is my OBS keep opening everything big? Sorry, I was just double checking the audio and it opened everything really large. So, there we go. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Cause
it was an outburst of an episode in many ways.
Absolutely, especially this episode. But in previous episodes, when you're watching RWBY in the background, you can really tell that she's just disconnected from what's happening. She's going over. Yeah,
I think that's the right word. I think a lot of people want to label her as feeling left out or ignored. I wouldn't say any of that's fair. I don't think, at least, but I think disconnected is the right term. There's a disconnection, whether that, regardless of the faults or why.
Yeah,
I think disconnect is the most appropriate word to use. She's just, her mind space isn't here at the moment. I think that's the important thing to focus on, regardless of why or how or who.
And there's been opportunities where the others have said, "Are you okay?" but they haven't been able to have that proper
and that's the
chat.
Thing. And
other things have happened. Yeah.
And again, and if you're someone who's been in that situation, you know that while you want people to reach out and help you, it's also just as frustrating when they do.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very complicated scenario you can find yourself in.
Yeah.
Speaking from a little bit of experience, like, you know, the idea of, I remember one of the most interesting things I remember ever being told, and it's a very common trope. Not trope's not the right term, but a very common thing of when someone is acting out. Growing up, when someone was acting out, the notion where I grew up is that you don't ignore them because all they want is attention.
Yeah.
Now, my mind, that always seemed ridiculous to me. It's like, if they're crying out for help, then just give them the help they're asking for.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's always been my attitude, and that wasn't the attitude I always grew up around, but that's still the attitude I always thought about it. But again, it's never that simple. You know, Yang multiple times this volume has reached out, maybe not obviously, but using rubes and certain terminology she's using is definitely a bit more out of trying to reach out to her.
Yeah, even Weiss too, like in the second episode, she said, that was a lot to talk about with Penny, are you okay?
And that's a very important thing too, is that like Weiss has grown a lot to the point, throughout the whole show, to where she always goes to RWBY, like that's always her first instinct is to go, what does RWBY think? How does RWBY feel about this? Because, on one case she's grown and she likes RWBY and all that kind of stuff, and it's also, it goes back to Volume 6 where RWBY was promising, Team RWBY will never not be by your side and stuff, so Weiss has really attached herself onto RWBY, especially now that she's lost her family, especially now that she's lost her home.
Yes,
now,
definitely.
In Weiss's mind, Team RWBY is all she has. She doesn't have Atlas. She doesn't have a family anymore. Especially, RWBY more so. But to counter that, there are also parts of this episode and previous episodes where she still has that she's still Weiss. She still has that Volume 1 in there, where she's still like, be better, don't be so childish, And it doesn't come from a rude or mean place, but there's still just this sense of like, crap's going down, RWBY. We need to protect these people. Jean's the same way. Now, Jean comes from a very different place.
Yes.
Jean comes from someone who's been in RWBY's position.
Yep.
Who also doesn't have the luxury to be that way. And we get that with the Crescent Rose scene and stuff in later in the episode. So, a lot of different things. And then Blake, who looks up to RWBY and looks up, and there all these fairy tales and all this stuff about heroes and stuff, much like RWBY did. But again, Blake is from a mature perspective looking for childhood inspiration because of the life she had, whereas RWBY is a childhood looking almost for more mature inspirations now because she realizes the childlike inspirations aren't going to work out for her. And it's that struggle of that is a big part of her character this volume, for sure.
Yes. It was very interesting how it all unfolded, but it just made so much sense with what's happened, and
no, it makes sense, definitely. Like one of the first things, the episode starts and RWBY can't sleep. Everyone else
she's awake.
Finally at some level of peace in this world. They finally found a place where they can rest, they can relax, and RWBY's found that. but it's still not enough for her. You know, Crescent Rose is right there, her demons, her memories, her real struggle of identity, which I think really come through now, is that she has this absolute struggle with her own self-identity, which is, you know, very new age, very current in terms of storytelling trope. It's very, that's a very new age thing at the moment in real life, is identity crises and identification and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure it relates to a lot of people very strongly, what RWBY's going through at the moment.
Definitely. And like, she's staring at Crescent Rose as well. She's probably thinking what the armorer said, and she's just thinking of everything that's happened, and she just doesn't feel like she's worthy to be the leader, and how it's so unfair that everything's been lumped on her, and she's meant to be, you know, the positive one, meant to be the leader, and it's all boiled up to
I mean, when you first said that, I wasn't sure. You explained yourself very well though, but I was like, I'm not sure if worthy is the right way to put it, but in terms of like, but then you expressed it. Yeah, I do agree.
It's funny because the Bumblebee song's called Worthy, but it's not what I meant. But it is.
No, but again, but that could be a nice like parallel, like in the idea of like Blake and Yang finally are at a place where they feel worthy of each other. They feel like they've earned each other's. You know, they've earned this. They've gone through enough struggle. You know,
they've gone through their demons.
Yang with her mother, Blake with Adam. That, you know, they've earned this happiness together. Which again is why RWBY, you know, it's so like, you know, congratulations, good for you. We're not all at that position. We're not all ready for that yet.
Some of us are still processing what went on and dealing with all of this shit, and it's just like, you're both happy and everything's good, and also the inability to do that.
As well, which is why one of the lines later, when like make-believe friends, you know, like John's here mourning these make-believe friends, whereas RWBY can't even mourn real, you know, Penny, you know. But just before we go too much deeper, obviously we come to this village, and we are in the village of the paper pleasers. These like star origami people of the Everaftians, whose their purpose, their role in this world is to make everything nice, peaceful, beautify it, you know, and especially in this acre, especially, like that's their purpose. And you know, Jean comes in and he, you know, feels he's finally in a position to be the hero, to be the savior, to be the leader.
Juniper brought him there after Alex left.
He was poisoned by Alex.
So he feels indebted to them because they helped him when he was poisoned, when he was at his lowest. So he feels that he has to return the favor. And
not only that, it's also an opportunity for Jean to play the hero. You know, to be the savior. He couldn't be, you know, he couldn't do this in the real world. He couldn't be the hero in the real world, but here he can. And there's two really good parallels with that in terms of Jean being the hero here. You know, making up for Penny. Especially when he's not following what they want to do. Whereas he did follow what Penny wanted to do, and it destroyed him. He
doesn't want to lose anyone else. He
doesn't want to lose anyone else, and you know, that's also why he names all the people pleasers after his friends and teammates and stuff. But I found it really interesting that again, like, he didn't want to kill Penny, but he did what she asked of him, and how
he was the only one who was able to do it too. He's the
only one able to do it, and then you have these paper pleasers, who all they want to do is ascend. Basically, the same thing. Their interpretation of what Penny went through, but Jean isn't letting them do that because he knew he realized how much it hurt him to do what Penny asked him to do. So he's not giving the paper pleasers that same choice.
He doesn't want them to die, and he doesn't want to lose them. because of Penny, because of Piero and all these other people. Like, you know, he's like, which is sad, really sad. And it's also, I wanted to say too, and I did mention this in my reaction video as well. It reminded me a lot of with Final Fantasy XIV and Endwalker. So the expansion, and no spoilers, but you do find about these other worlds who where they feel that all life is to suffer, and all they want to do is to die, to move on, to be released from this, from their current lives. And it reminded me a lot of that. And not that the paper pleasers think that they're suffering, it's just more that they've finished their work, they want to move on, and they want to die.
They want to do something. They want to do something. They want to be ascended. They want to be rebirthed. They want to be they've done this duty. They now want to move on to the next duty, whatever the tree deems them
because one of the worlds was beautiful. It was a really beautiful place, and how they were sort of dying as such was very much a kind of in a way of ascension. It was painless. It was pretty, so it reminded me a lot of that. Oh, and the little guys, the paper pleasers, they remind me of the origami stars. Did you? I'm not sure if you did any origami sort of as a kid or not really.
Yeah, I described them earlier stars? As like. Yeah, I described them earlier as like origami.
Yeah, They remind me of the little paper stars that I used to make when I was at high school. I used to have a jar full of them.
Yeah, I remember I did in year 8. I did a school trip to, like a. I think it was just another school, but another school that had a bit more of a Japanese because I did Japanese in year 8, and I remember. Another school had more of like a facility for that. They had more of like a traditional Japanese classroom and stuff where you would go to do Japanese. So I remember going on a field trip and we did stuff like that.
Yeah.
For sure. So that was really good. I was curious. How did you feel about Yang's frustration towards Jean in this episode around the start of it, in terms of like Yang was like frustrated that Jean was protecting these people and had this to-do list, and it was just like I get like a little later, she's more like frustrated that John's put this to-do list on them and that pressure on them.
Yeah.
But even before that, Yang was like frustrated that he was protecting these people, and I feel like in the long term it made sense, but just her initial frustration was like, "Don't worry, Nightwalker, we were late too. Don't worry about it."
We were had some technical difficulties at the start.
That's why I'm wearing a speaker rather than headphones. It just had to happen.
I mean, we're just talking about the paper please.
Yeah, I was just because when we watched this morning, I was like, man, Yang's very frustrated with the situation, almost before she should be.
Yeah, I think what came down to that, I think, was just the fact they want to get home, and John spent all this time with these people. Rather than
I guess,
and also
I
guess when they find out about them wanting to ascend, and he's stopping them from doing that too. So
I'm saying it made sense eventually once we got more details. I feel like she was frustrated from the get go.
Yeah.
And again, that makes sense. If Jean's been here all this time, why hasn't it been more focused on looking for a way out and stuff? I get it. I get it. It's just one of those things where I feel like like when they were writing it, they knew Yang was going to get frustrated by the end, and so they kind of they kind of did that from the start of it rather than establishing it really early on.
It's really
it's only been one day for them as well, and John's been here for he said years, and I think Miles mentioned John mentioned Kerry got there eventually mentioned it in the YouTube video that it was like 10 to 20 years roughly.
Yeah. I feel like it's been
not
longer,
give
but
actual dates.
I know. I feel like he looks older than that, but
I wouldn't say any more than 20. Well, yeah, but it's also 20 years stress, protecting people for 20 years at the most, and also with no hygiene. Well, it's also animation. It can't get too perfect in terms of getting the age.
We still don't know how time works as well in regards to the outside world either. So it looks older from the stress. Yeah. That I think was definitely a big factor as well. 10 years.
Yeah, I would say 10 years seems short. I agree, but unshaven, stressful 10 years, going a bit crazy. I could definitely believe it. So we had this establishment in this episode too. This is more from Blake's end rather than Yang's. The whole concept of the more positive idea of ascension, and that it might not necessarily be a bad thing and stuff. And I liked, especially, I feel like, again, kind of like Yang as well, like if she almost felt frustrated a little too quickly. I feel like Blake almost jumped too quickly onto the idea of ascension being a positive thing. I guess it makes sense because she was the one who believes Alex, and she's the one who's more in tune with this fairy tale, and she wants to believe that Alex is a good person.
Yeah.
So that's why she's more willing, not to not take John's side, but just to be more willing to go. And once again, they justify that later.
Yes.
When they talk about how the cat wasn't there either.
No.
John wasn't there either. We don't know what's real. But again, it just felt like both of those characters jumped to conclusions and then were justified after the fact.
Yeah.
Which again made sense in the end, but just it's almost jarring that Yang was frustrated so early and Blake was so willing to spin it into a positive sense. It makes sense. It just I thought was like, oh, Okay, that makes sense. I just thought it was a bit of a writing thing. And maybe that's more like a Miles thing in terms of his writing. I'm not too sure.
Okay. Yeah.
But it wasn't. Neither were bad. It was just very much like quickly jump to conclusions.
Yeah. They're technically
prisoners, Yeah, that is an interpretation. But again, if they're okay with that, is it, like, sure, prisoner is an apt way to put it. But if the prisoner wants to be in this situation.
Well, they want to ascend, and John's the one, I guess, in a way, in prison.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Right.
That way around.
Sorry, you're right. You're right.
Yes.
In that interpretation of the situation, yes.
Yeah.
No, they are.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing, and I guess we can make some guesses and stuff. I guess that was I guess I assume that was Blake's.
Yeah, it could have been.
Just by the color scheme. Obviously, we saw Ren earlier when he mentioned the connections to the mall.
Yes.
And I love always love a Neptune reference.
Yes.
Neptune's one of my favorite minor characters, even though he's a bit of a scumbag, but
yeah.
I feel like Neptune. He means it. I feel like he means it. Yeah.
He does.
He's not an Adam scumbag. He's just he means well. But I love the fact that obviously Neptune references around Weiss. Nice. But I love the fact that Jean of all characters mentions Neptune. One, because of their brief connection in Volume 2.
Yes.
Where it came to Emperial and Weiss. But more importantly, just because it's Miles and Kerry.
Yeah.
Like, the Miles character mentions Kerry. Two of the original writers of the show. I always like that. Like, of all characters, it's those two characters, those two mentioning each other, which I thought was really cute.
Yeah.
And also, the Neptune shout out was a great foreshadowing for the flood at the end of the episode.
Oh, well, yeah, I didn't think of that. That's a good point.
As well, as an interpretation of what happened.
Yes.
I thought. With like of all characters to mention Neptune, and then we get a flood at the end of the episode, I feel like that was deliberate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like that was nice.
You're right.
I feel like
Nightwalker too, he is a bit like an overprotective parent. Yeah.
He is 100%.
Especially when we saw like the flashback, like with grabbing the leaves and you going the and then taking the
and also the flashback with Alex as well. Like he felt that he has to guide Alex through the story because he knows the story.
Yeah.
Again, he's very much taken this role. And a lot of that has to do with Pyrrha and fairy tales and all this other stuff. It all makes complete sense why he's taking this kind of role, and it makes sense within John's character that he would take the role too far, too seriously, and he'd overstep his bounds. Speaking of, I did see this one tweet that I really saw, that Jean waited so long, especially from his time at Beacon through to Mistral, so it would have been about a year and a half or so, something like that, of like learning about aura and semblance and stuff, and then he finally gets his semblance to save Weiss.
Yeah. Was able to save Penny.
Wanted to save Penny, and is now in a situation where he's this hero, and his semblance means nothing.
Yep.
Assuming these things don't have aura, his semblance doesn't do anything these paper pleases. He can't save them like he couldn't save Penny. So he finally, he has this semblance that makes him this hero and the savior, but here does nothing.
And
so I thought that was a sad point.
Yeah, and the paper pleases were his way of coping. Of being lonely
100%.
for so long.
Lonely for so long, and
having a purpose.
And having all these, this RWBY, this Ren, this Neptune, this Blake, and having all these, and I thought Yang was a little harsh. It's like, how she creeped out. I get it. It's creepy.
It is kind of not like
come on, yeah. Again, like I said, I don't know if it's a Miles way of writing, but there were a few reactions in this episode that I thought were a little over the top, but made sense, but just a little bit like much.
John going cast away. Yeah,
that's a great way to put it.
It would be funny if there was one called Wilson.
We'll wait for the audio commentary. I'm sure there will be.
Yeah, the list too. I was trying to find
that's
the
one thing
of them.
Yeah, that's the thing we might not be able to get to because I don't think we have the list prepared. We do have the map at some point when we get to that.
In my reaction afterwards, when I'm going back over the episode, I do sort of slow it down and watching, and I read it out. There are a lot of little reference in there. The Pyrrha one, definitely people picking up on. Now, I originally said it was homework, and I think a lot of people thinking homework, but I'm like, they don't go, like, what homework? They don't go to school, so maybe housework. HW could be housework rather than homework.
Yeah, homework.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it also would make sense in the parental idea that John is teaching them.
Yeah.
Like he's opened a school to teach them and kind of like what else is he gonna? Yeah, sure. And I guess that's why Yang was frustrated because again, what else is he gonna do with his time? Well, looking for an escape. While, and we mentioned that earlier. I think we mentioned that last episode too. How noble it was of Jean to wait this whole time because he knew they were going to come. He wasn't looking for an escape. And I feel like that adds to it. Jean was almost found it more important to wait for Team RWBY to arrive.
Yes.
Rather than finding an exit, obviously not just for himself, but for them as well. Yeah. But I'm sure in Team RWBY's mind, their idea is like, what do you mean you waited for us for 20 years? Why didn't you find an exit so that when we got here? So I understand that from that perspective as well.
Yeah, and he's like, well, you can't expect me to have all the answers, and, you know, and you've been helping the paper pleasers as well. So trying to find time, a way he can leave them alone to be able to go and find. Talking of which is the map. Ta-da! So with the map, so we can sort of see where Team RWBY have gone through. We've got the Hunter Mice down on the bottom right. So Hunter Mice, Crimson Castle, Garden, Paper Pleasers.
Yeah, I think Paper Pleasers. Yeah.
And
those are the ones we've seen.
Yeah, so that's the ones we've seen.
And assumingly I would assume the Jabberwocker one we saw as well.
Yeah, assuming that's the symbol is the Jabberwocker, which is interesting. Yeah. It's so close. The Jabberwocker, Volcano, Swan Lake. Stinky Cheese and Green Chapel. So that's as far as he's gone up north. And
don't forget the Caker.
Yes, the Caker. Yeah. So got after the garden, in between the garden, you got the Cake Acres, the Caker, the Farming Flats, Blob, and a triangle, which I'm assuming is the pyramids that he mentioned.
Yes. Yeah. That's a great point.
Yeah.
And I assume the blank one next to the papers is where RWBY is going. Wherever that is.
Possibly.
I'd assume so.
Yeah.
I just like, why put a blank one there right next to Paper Pleasers unless we're going to go there.
It's interesting too that he hasn't explored that way. Because you would have thought he would have being the next
again,
step,
I think this is just influencing how much John cared, delusionally cared for this village.
Yes.
How little he actually managed to explore. And don't get me wrong, it's like when you have depression and you don't want to do the thing you need to do. You want to do something. You instinctively want to do not the thing you need to do. I don't know why that's how depression works, but I from experience that just when you're and depression in all levels, whether that's just as simple as just lack of sleep and stuff, just.
Yeah, the Jabberwockers are next door. It could be possibly, even though he's got a line to that acre, it may be possibly that he can't get to that acre. It could be maybe the bridge is broken or something.
Yeah, that's very possible as well. Sorry, I had to let a cat out.
That's okay. I put Ellie in with Chris, so because she was being way too energetic this morning. So it could be possibly he can't get there for some reason. So that might be why it's blank.
Yeah. Jump ahead a little bit.
Yes.
Because I really want to talk about this because I think we've alluded to it a few times in the past episodes. What is going on with Neo's illusions?
Yeah.
In terms of like the way the characters are reacting, it seems like these are, for all intents and purposes, real Jabberwockers.
Yeah.
Like they're acting as if they get eaten, they won't ascend.
Yes.
Even though these are just illusions.
These are illusions.
In this world, and again, Neo mentions this fairy tale in her book in Roman Holiday.
Yep.
And I've seen some theories going around about like maybe Neo hasn't been here as long as Jean, and even if Neo has been here as long as Jean, she could hide her what she looks like.
Yeah.
That she has some connection to the story that Alex didn't mention.
Yeah.
Because she went back in time, and that's what makes her so powerful here.
There's been a lot of theories.
She is the Mad Hatter in the story, but Alex just didn't mention it in the actual fairy tale. Or that Alex is her own self-insert in this story, and Neo is actually Alex because of, again, we know the clockwork orange things are a thing.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
Because the characters are acting as if these are real Jabberwockers created by Neo.
Yeah.
Which I can't tell if that's just a writing oversight.
Yeah.
And the characters aren't realizing this, or if the characters realize that and are just as confused as we are.
Because John did say there should only be one, so I don't think there's been
should
multiple
only be
Jabberwocker
one,
he's encountered before.
And they're not breaking away as easily, and they are acting as if these are actual threats of Jabberwockers. Like, they know, especially this episode, like, they know that these Jabberwockers aren't real. They know that they're Neo's illusions. But they're still acting as if they can cause disascension.
Yeah, possibly. They seem confused, but know that they aren't. I guess because they don't know, even though they're technically not Sorry. Yeah, too good, my
So I just don't know if her semblance has evolved to the point where she can create like real thing, like she almost is a relic of creation in her own way, like she's gotten that powerful that she can create real Jabberwockers that are just less brittle.
We did have the thought
more brittle, but
I think I mentioned it in a previous stream, but that perhaps in the Ever After semblances are enhanced here.
Sure.
Yeah, so that was the thought.
Yeah.
So
just that, are you suggesting that her semblance is just powerful enough to create real Jabberwockers?
Yeah.
Just but they're not illusions, they're actual creations now. Her semblance has evolved to that point.
I guess also, I guess they're treating it the fact they don't know if these Jabberwockers did attack after and if they wouldn't ascend. They don't know that for certain. It just
feels like they're reacting as
they're treating it as such.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which is a safe assumption, just in case. But even again, like a shadow clone, again, like what she always did. But I feel like that. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it could maybe be an idea of like we don't know which one's the real one.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, they haven't portrayed that. The characters haven't portrayed that to the audience. That that's what their interpretations are. So I'm really not sure.
Don't know.
But it's interesting, and we'll get more. I have another Neo note.
Yes.
Somewhere in this book, so we'll get to that. But I also wanted to mention too that this time I don't believe the illusions we saw, the actual illusions, not the actual illusions we saw with RWBY. I don't think that was Neo.
No,
I think that was
it was
RWBY.
PTSD.
I think RWBY saw Sindel, RWBY saw Penny. That wasn't Neo messing with them. That was RWBY's PTSD messing with her. Which I like the fact that wasn't obvious. That you had to kind of think, because you could watch that and assume that it was. Nope, dog's back in.
Yep, she's just let herself in. You're going to sit on your bed and be quiet?
Yeah.
On your bed?
Yeah, so I find that really interesting as well, because when I first saw that, I thought it was Neo, but then when I rewatched it, I'm like, no, like some of this wouldn't make... I think it's just because...
I think it's the PTSD, because...
I definitely think it is, but it took me 2 watches to kind of really put that together.
I really liked how they showed RWBY in this fight. Like, the fight scene was awesome. I really loved how Weiss and John were working really well. The music was awesome. I think Casey said that this was like emo punk city or something.
Yeah.
Yes, you should check out Casey's tweets, because she's been sort of referring to each of the episodes as something city, and this was emo punk city. And RWBY's just there back there.
This very much feels like it'll be like a Red Like Roses Part 3. This Trapdoor is the song title.
And she just looked so scared. She's just standing there. She didn't know what to do. And when that Jabberwocker attacked her... Yeah.
And you keep seeing like John and Weiss look at her and be like, you know...
What are you doing?
And again, like I said earlier... Jean is coming from a place of, I know where you've been, but you have to, you can't not falter in this thing. Whereas Weiss is looking at her, Weiss is almost looking like you should be better.
Yeah.
Again, that might come off harsh, but I think it's just Weiss's attitude of like, you know, you are the leader. You are the thing, whether you want to be or not. You want it to be then, so be it now.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And that's true.
And again, I know that the way I describe it comes off harsh. I know Weiss doesn't mean it that harshly, but that's just how I would describe it. And again, Weiss is a bit of a harsh person. That is just part of her character, even though she might mean very well.
And
that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, she all this happens.
Hasn't had a chance to. And it's everything. I think. As well, it's not just, of course, Penny, but it's everyone else who's been lost along the way. And we definitely saw too when we at the start of episode 1 we saw RWBY as her reaction to everything that happened when Yang fell and everything.
Yeah,
you can hear how scared she is, and it's traumatic, absolutely traumatic. And again, she hasn't a chance to process it.
Yeah, and especially because she's grown up with this idea of like, you know, being the fairy tale hero, much like John.
And they failed in her eyes.
And she never, you know, she never had to, you know, like Yang and Weiss and Blake were all more realists in terms of, sure, Yang was just looking for adventure and fun, but she knew what she was getting into.
Yeah.
You know, Weiss felt like this was her duty, this was her only choice, and she knew what she was getting into. Blake, who has seen the real world and knows how rough and dark it is, felt like this was the best option for her dark, you know, abilities and all the, you know, like, you know, her abilities and stuff that, you know, this is my, you know, I've done all these bad things.
Yeah.
This is the most positive way to direct it and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas RWBY came in just with this much more fairy tale mentality, and it just, you know.
They have bigger dreams. Yes, that's it. They both want to be the hero. And John feels like now that with the people pleasers, that they're all gone, that he's lost that chance to be hero, and he's now faced with the reality of everything. And that just came out with Ruby snapping. And because it was why I said, like, what do you think, Ruby? And Ruby's like, why are you asking me?
Yeah, and also too, let's not forget, like, again, you mentioned Volume 8 not being that long ago.
Yeah.
You just look at, the discussion in episode 100, Volume 8, episode 8, Dark, where Blake finally,
yes,
because, from our perspective, finally talks to Ruby and kind of just, expresses, you are what I wanted to be. I wish I was like you.
Yeah.
I wish I had this child. I wish I didn't go through all the crap I went through. I wish I was like you. I wish I had this positive attitude. You inspire me even now to be this positive person. And then we have this to a day later. Shut up.
Yeah.
Don't
do that.
I'm not being the positive person, so you can't be the positive person now.
Stop.
And again,
to,
speaking from a little bit of experience, again, like I get that idea of like, no, I don't want to hear your rallying speech. I don't want to hear your just no.
Stop.
Stop.
Yeah.
You're not helping. You're just throwing my. And again, perfectly like Blake unintentionally is throwing Ruby right back at Ruby's face, which is her whole issue, is that she doesn't want to be reminded of herself. And Blake, who was inspired by Ruby in that moment to be like Ruby used to be, and it just insults her. It's like, no, enough. And I want to jump to this other point here, because this is more of a theory thing.
Yes.
Yang standing in for Blake in that one little scene, which has little significance at all, but people are blowing it out of proportion.
Of course.
I interpret that. I just saw this morning, and again, overthinking it to hell. I like the interpretation that Yang stood before Blake.
Yeah.
Because Yang knows Blake's experiences with people like Adam. So seeing outbursts from people like, say, Ruby.
Yeah.
Yang stepped in front of Blake just as because Blake might not react well to outbursts.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure that's all it is, protective.
Yeah.
Not that Ruby was going to strike Blake or any dumb interpretations, like people are going to be like that. But I like the idea of Yang knowing Blake's past. Yeah, and because Yang knows Blake's past with people like Adam, so these kind of emotional outbursts, which I assume happen with Adam a lot, not that we saw any, but just knowing Adam's character and how Blake's described him in the past, I like the idea that might be a part of the reason why Yang would step in that way.
Yeah.
Again, I only draw that conclusion because I know people have drawn far worse conclusions to that scene.
Yeah.
Thinking Ruby's going to attack Blake or Yang is protecting Blake over Ruby, and it's not the case at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. And you can see... Oh, there's a Jigglypuff in chat. You can see that how much it is affecting Blake. I love her cat ears, and the people who animate her cat ears. Yeah. You can just tell they sort of go down. Yeah.
I always watch the little... unfortunately, I don't remember the account on my head, but I know there's someone who does a compilation of the Blake ears every single week.
Yeah.
On Twitter, and those are always good videos. But yeah, and...
Yeah, that's true, Nightwalker. Yang would know. But it's very rare for us to see, well, definitely us. Yang may have seen her angry before, but for just the snap.
And again, too, you got to remember, too, that Ruby's last angry was back in Volume 5 with Emerald and Mercury, and that was, we all thought at the time, yay, Ruby's angry. In hindsight, that's such a dumb little Volume 5 thing, as a lot of Volume 5 things are. But just that was her angry before, and now she has this, which again was angry in a childlike sense, but now she's angry in a more mature, real world sense, and it's just it's a lot more.
She's just snapped.
Confronting. Again, and it's just the surprise and shock, and
because the others weren't expecting this. We were, of course, but for her to snap like that, and I guess it's just very unlike Ruby. Yeah,
and again, I love someone made a comparison to the Jean and Ruby stuff and immediately paralleled that to Volume 4 and the whole the scene in Kurogiri where it's like you gave us the courage to follow you.
Yes.
And here you have Jean. God, I
got the Jigglypuff.
We are here because of you.
Yes.
Neo is here because she hates you. We are here because your plan failed. About you. It is always about you.
Yes.
And I just I love it.
Oh my
I
god.
love it so much because I feel he's kind of right.
He is
I
right.
hate that, but he is right.
He is right.
Ruby is so
and that's
upset,
what hurts even
and
more.
I don't want to take that away from her.
Yeah.
But she is the protagonist. It is all about her. And I get that's the point. She doesn't want it to be. I get that that's the point.
Why
She's
does it
upset.
have to be her? Why is she the positive one? Why is she the leader? Why is everything coming down to her? And she's younger than them as well.
Like, I've never made a TikTok, but I want to make a TikTok just to redo that John scene. Because that is so...
Miles just nailed it with that. It's just... you can really feel the anguish in John's voice. He just lost the paper pleasers. They're gone now, and he's now faced with RWBY. RWBY didn't want to help defend them, and he doesn't understand why RWBY's acting this way. And then it's just...
Yeah, and that's the thing too. And you know, Jean's not seen her for 20 years, or whatever. And you know, this is all like, again, like, imagine all the thoughts that's gone through his head over this time, and then he finally sees RWBY again.
Yeah.
And even then, let's not forget, the last time Jean and RWBY would have seen each other would have been at Weiss's house.
Yeah.
So he hasn't. I mean, I guess he would have seen her in the central location, but they didn't really talk or anything like that.
No, they were sort of doing their roles that they had. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to think too. I don't think Jean even joined into the fight until after RWBY and Blake had already fallen.
Yeah, because he was helping.
He jumped
everyone.
in with Weiss and Penny.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So he didn't even, because
his role was to sort of help the people.
Everyone. That was Juniper's job. Was make sure people get through. That was the important bit.
Yes.
And that's the thing. And RWBY again insulted Jean because again, like, she'd lost a real friend. Here, Jean is. Being mad at
imaginary friends.
Which again is such a credible thing because RWBY is a child here in terms of her personality, and she's the one who's making jokes about make-believe friends when she's the one who, stereotypically would have the make-believe friends.
Yeah.
And she's the one having to be mature about it and stuff. And again, I love that all this, this trauma was seated back in Volume 1 with the whole thing about she wanted just to attend school and be a normal girl with normal needs. Yeah. She didn't want she wanted to be the hero, but she didn't want to be the protagonist in the world.
Yes. It just so much responsibility on her small shoulders, and it's just got to the point. And the fact that they've failed. They tried to do their best and they've failed, and
this is another failure, especially Jean as well. Like, this is just another thing he's failed at, and again, that's a big part of Jean's character. He's the one thing Jean ever did successfully was save Weiss.
Yep.
Off the top of my head, I think it's the only thing he ever kind of has succeeded in.
Yeah. He helped a bit with
I can understand
and everything, but
Sure, and that's fair. But I think in John's mind, that's like his big success would be that. Yeah. And then, granted, I don't think this is intentional storytelling, but just the meta idea.
Help the kids cross the road.
That's Jean's one success.
Yeah.
And where have Jean and Weiss's friendship gone from then?
Yeah.
Nothing. Nothing's come of it. Nothing came of that. Like, nothing. Again, I don't think that's an intentional story beat.
Yeah.
I just think that's something they just didn't have time to develop over these last few volumes. But I can understand the frustration in that. I'm not saying that Jean should have expected a relationship out of Weiss for saving her or anything like that. But it's not like their friendship has gotten stronger. Not like they've gotten closer. Not like, we know. And again, there's a lot of Weiss Volume 5 stuff that gets completely forgotten by Volume 6. So that's frustrating. But like the spear and the healing, and that does never get brought up or anything like that.
The kids crossing the road, I think also too, that also is him again being the hero.
That's a good parallel as well. Like, especially over like children, he's the adult here. Yeah. So he has to, around these children.
Yes.
I'm just trying to look through a lot
for simple reassurance, and RWBY took it personally. Yep. Because Weiss, I guess, has always relied on RWBY to help in these sort of situations.
Weiss has accepted RWBY as the leader. Weiss has accepted RWBY as, you're the person I'm going to look to.
RWBY's been her comfort. Like,
and especially now that she has no family, no Atlas, as we mentioned earlier. Team RWBY and RWBY herself is all she has now.
Episode 5, when they'll just had the Jabberwockers and like RWBY's comforting Weiss.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
and that's the thing too. It's not like Weiss. It's not like Weiss is leaning on RWBY. RWBY has been there for her.
Yeah.
All these years, so it's not like
been
Weiss.
One she can rely on to back her up and support her.
Yeah. Weiss isn't putting her pressure on RWBY. RWBY's just been there to hold her up this whole time. So now the one time Weiss does put a pressure on RWBY, it's just the wrong time, wrong moment, and it crumbles all around her. But we mentioned earlier about the scared of her own identity, and we have this moment where she just doesn't take Crescent Rose. She just, Jean's like, Jean's like, I get you don't care about this place. I get you don't care, but you care about your friends. So help your friends fight for them, and then just can't take Crescent Rose because it's Summer, it's RWBY, it's Crow, it's just, not her. Yeah. Whatever RWBY is, it's not RWBY anymore, and she just can't accept that. Granted, she does take Crescent Rose when she leaves.
She did, yeah.
So we'll see. And you mentioned too about the semblance thing. Like, I don't think this necessarily ties into what the whole idea of the ever after enhancing semblances. We did see RWBY use a semblance better than we ever had. I think that was just a dramatic effect.
Zipped away.
But it could tie into the whole ever after semblance enhancing thing. I mean, we saw Yang use a semblance much, easier here. Blake did use a shadow cleanse here, but it wasn't anything that crazy.
Rice
and then
with her wings and the
Weiss's
giant
platform.
sword.
Yeah, so there could be some level. But I also attained to just them being more experienced and being stronger. I mean, we did see RWBY use a semblance through the entire island of Atlas last volume, so I guess it's not really that big of a stretch. Yeah. As long as she's healed, and she was healed up and rested, and she didn't fight. I think she dodged the one attack, so I don't think her aura got damaged at all in that fight. She dodged the swipe and then she got tackled, so it's not like her aura would have been hurt or anything. So she had strength. And she's been fighting or tired or anything as of late, so she has.
And there's Little. I love Little in this episode too. Like when they
Little had a lot of like reactions and looks at RWBY and stuff, which ties into the Penny possibility and all that other kind of stuff as well.
Now, like I like the scene when they're at the table and everything, and RWBY
is just scratching away and just not connected.
Yeah, but it's not like. Didn't have anything to eat and was just very, again, disconnected from what was happening. Yeah. And Little's just there, eating, and their eyes are going really big, just looking at RWBY. It's so cute, but it's just like, Little realizes something's up. And then in this whole scene too, you can see Little's like carrying a little bit like, oh, this is,
Yeah, and Little's with her when she runs away as well. So we'll still have more of that. Which means we possibly could get 3 episodes of just RWBY by herself, which I'm very much looking forward to what development that will have. Yeah. I'm sure we'll get some more Team RWBY stuff, but I imagine that the rest of the volume
next episode is going to be very focused on RWBY. Very much so. And even this volume, even though it's been
RWBY
about
and
them all,
Neo
it's
as well, possibly as well.
RWBY's the focus, definitely, for this volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we mentioned Little and Penny there. I did see someone... because the whole idea of ascension, what is ascension, what is it actually, and someone made a really good point. Again, I apologize, I didn't get the handles of the name, so I do apologize for that. But someone made the connection that we've seen ascension before, because the way it was described in here matches piece to piece what we saw with Penny.
Yeah.
And we don't know what Ambrosius did with Penny. No. So what if Ambrosius' solution was to ascend Penny?
Yes.
In some weird way, and that's so. Which I think would be, if that is the case, would be a foreshadowing for this whole volume.
Yeah.
Because again, that was the beginning. There are a lot of interpretations of what did Ambrosius do to Penny. Now, and I've always had the idea it's just like aura had to be somewhere, so it manifested itself into a real person.
Yeah.
While the robot was applying. That was always my interpretation. But you could argue that this was the old Penny being ascended, taking parts into the new Penny, and it wasn't death, and it wasn't creation. It was something. It was ascension. Which is something else.
Yeah, created
in this
something
interpretation.
Else. Yes.
I thought that's a possibly cool interpretation. It could be a cool foreshadowing. So what the tree does is what Ambrosius did to Penny.
Yeah.
The tree does the same thing for people.
Because they can come back as their usual selves, or sometimes they come back.
I'm not saying
different.
there's a bunch of corpses at the bottom of the tree, but if there is a bunch of corpses at the bottom of the tree, that would explain just taking the parts the tree needs to make something new and leaving the rest behind. Obviously, it's different because Penny's a robot with a virus and there's all of complications and stuff. But I thought that was a cool interpretation of what happened with Penny in Volume 8 could be taken for what Ascension has been described to as this volume.
And Ascension too. In a way, it is like death and rebirth because. It's the end of that particular person. Even if they come back as the same person, they won't have their memories. So, And again, and that also ties into not to RWBY. This is just general sci-fi stuff. But the idea of like in some sci-fi worlds, teleportation is basically the same thing. Like you're being destroyed to your atoms. You're being completely erased,
and you're simply being
And
rebuilt
then
somewhere else.
rebuilt somewhere
Are
else.
you the same person?
Yeah.
This ties into the Theseus ship theory, where if you take a bunch of planks out of a ship and you put all the new ones in, is it still the same ship in the end, even though it's completely been replaced? So there's all those concepts all coming in for this as well, which really excited to get stuff. And as I said before, like we said, RWBY stuff, I imagine we'll get a lot of Neo stuff.
Yeah,
as well, because
rolling all this.
Yeah.
As well. I'm about to have an ad play. Apologies for those who are watching the stream right now.
So I'm just looking at the last few of my notes here. So someone did a really cool just analysis of like everyone's reactions of like Yang is shocked and feels bad for herself for not noticing RWBY's problems, even though she did, but not to the degree I think she now realizes. They didn't have a chance
to properly discuss it and work through it. Yeah, and RWBY still there's a lot like with the Hound. I remember RWBY on the steps there and Yang comforting her. I
just finished Game of Thrones, so whenever we say the Hound, my mind
not that Hound. Not that Hound.
But that's a good the Hound conversation, and also the conversation with the sword in episode 2.
Yeah.
Because the guardsman interfered, so she didn't really get to fully get through all those things. She had to move on. She had to give away the sword and stuff.
Yeah,
and
she hasn't had a chance to properly process what happened.
So with like the sword conversation and the Hound conversation, she hasn't really had those enough moments. Because again, even with the Hound conversation, it was interrupted by John and Penny, and then the sword conversation interrupted by the guards. So I didn't really get to work way through that.
Work through. Yeah,
we mentioned too about Weiss, devastation, because again, like she's had RWBY to lean on, and she couldn't in this instance.
Yeah.
And Blake again heartbroken because Blake wants to be like RWBY, so to see RWBY like this, like never meet your heroes kind of idea and stuff, it sucks. The last little thing I have here on the episode before we get into anything else was just that the idea of when I first watched the episode, I couldn't help but think like, what was Neo's purpose here?
I always felt like she
attacked, and then she didn't lose yet, I wouldn't say, and then she just disappeared. And she also, finger gunned. It's not like she ran away.
No,
I think
she's teasing.
And I really wasn't. Yeah, but again, but why?
Yeah,
if she wants to kill RWBY, why is she teasing her? Why is she? Especially if the PTSDs, the visuals were RWBY's own creation, not Neo. So why now? I have a solution. I have an answer, and again, I know what the answer is. It's teasing her, making her suffering. If you go back and listen to the Jabberwockers,
yes,
they describe Neo's thoughts and Neo's emotions at this moment, and it's teasing, suffering, hate,
hungering,
death. But it's a lot of like teasy, suffering, I will make you pay kind of terminology and stuff. So Neo realizes in this moment that she wants to make RWBY suffer. She wants to make it's not about just killing RWBY, which I feel like to this whole point it has been, but I feel like in this situation, this moment, she's realized that she can make RWBY suffer now.
Yeah, absolutely.
RWBY can't get away from her.
What she did, even though really it wasn't her. But
no, and that's the thing too. I was also thinking that and again, it wouldn't surprise me too if when we get back to Remnant, if Neo gets back to Remnant as well, that she does this once she does the same thing with Cinder. I feel like now at this point she would want to do this. I remember back when she came back in volume 6.
She's being a psycho now.
we can't wait to see Cinder versus RWBY versus Neo. And then that kind of got shelved when Neo and Cinder teamed up. But now I feel like after the betrayal in volume 8, I definitely think whatever Neo is doing to RWBY, as long as she makes it out, whether she succeeds or not, but as long as she makes it out, she will try to do the same thing to Cinder. She'll try to kill Cinder. She'll try to tease and make Cinder suffer and all this kind of stuff, because I think she realizes that now. Yeah, and like we said, Neo's strength, whether that's a Just and Ever After thing or whether that's a Remnant thing as well, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I think that's the last of my notes, finally.
Yeah.
But a great episode, really cathartic episode, and it needed to happen. Yeah, that's a good point, Nightwalker. Like Emerald and Neo.
God.
Especially because Emerald's gotten a lot stronger as well, so.
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those things where like Neo's character was just kind of like brought in randomly in volume 2, where I think Emerald probably had a bit more of a build up and stuff. So the fact they have so similar semblances is definitely
yeah.
just a coincidence kind of thing. But yeah, definitely interesting if that will ever play up. So yeah, so I mean we've got 3 episodes left. Or yeah, 3 episodes like 8, 9, 10.
Getting into the nitty gritty of it now.
Yeah, I think we've got a lot of.
I'm hoping we're going to get summer stuff. I'm still not sure whether summer actually made it down to the Ever After or not. I don't know.
I don't think so. Like I don't know because we have the Hound stuff. Now the Hound stuff could have been a red herring, but again, everything summer we have seen here. Again, we don't know what the blacksmith was. If that was an illusion, or we don't know what the hell the blacksmith really was. That was just the Ever After playing tricks, and then everything else has been. Everything else has been in RWBY's mind and up to RWBY's interpretations and stuff. I don't know. I'm just trying to think. I don't think Summer is here because I just can't think of how she got here. That's the big point. That always like how would Summer be here?
And how would a weapon be there either? That's the other thing. Unless it's physically not there. It's been
I don't
created.
Think it was because again, like she had the penny sword, but then it became the dagger. So I don't think any of that was real. And then when everyone else showed up. It wasn't real. It's still back in the marketplace. But why was? I don't think that was a Neo illusion, even though we know Neo was there. But I don't think that was Neo. I think that was just the world, or was it just RWBY's own mind?
Blake did mention that Alex met with the armorer.
Did mention that there is an armorer and just like there is a blacksmith. So it might be one of those things we might meet.
Yeah.
The actual them later, possibly if this wasn't real,
or if it was the fact this was real, but that's the way the armorer comes to people, and then maybe that might have happened when Alex had left John.
Yeah,
and
it's possible.
Maybe that's where she came across.
It just seems so different from everything else we've seen. That's all.
It is.
Everything else has been real. Everything else has been tangible. As weird as this place is, that was like stepping into another world for a second.
Yeah, I think RWBY's going to meet the Smith again in her darkness. Yeah, absolutely. I think she is going to encounter the armor again, and maybe she will take up the axe. Maybe if the axe. Real, like I don't but again, like I like the idea, like we discussed this last week, of like RWBY taking on a new persona, a new outfit, new weapon. I just thought too, what if she picks up the axe and then her outfit changes? She gets the white cloak instead of the red cloak, and that'd be cool.
But again, I feel like RWBY would hate that because I don't think RWBY wants to be Summer. She doesn't want to be RWBY. She wants to be something. Person. She wants to be something new. She wants to be her own thing now going forward. So. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we'll get a little more Summer stuff for sure. Because again, like, and if the Hound stuff is real, then she has to come to terms with the Summer stuff now.
Yeah.
So she does have to fight Summer in Hound form.
Yeah.
In a later volume. She has to be able to emotionally handle that.
Yeah. Oh, your camera's frozen.
Can I still be heard?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. Fixed. It only just happened for a second. Yeah. It's
probably overheating a little bit. We're probably about wrapping up anyway.
Yes.
I think we got to everything.
I think so. We've talked about earlier with the Neo and Alex links there. It is very heavily implied in the intro. To at the end of the intro, you see Neo and then you see Alex like in the same sort of pose, sort of thing. It's very heavily implied. Yeah.
To that, which again, maybe that has to do again because we saw the time travel stuff as a thing. So maybe maybe Alex is Neo in some sort of paradox time thing, or Neo is a character in the book.
Yeah.
Neo is a character in the book, just it wasn't actually mentioned. So I'm not. Yeah, I don't know.
Not sure.
Yeah.
We'll find out. When we see episode 8. Oh god.
Yeah.
Sam just killed our happy memory. That's true. Yeah. And I mean, people saying, I think it might have been confirmed as well that RWBY won't be able to use that memory of Summer anymore because it's been tainted by Salem.
Yeah, that idea. Yeah, that was a theory as well, that Salem had destroyed that memory, so that way she couldn't use that to use Silver Eyes.
Yeah, she couldn't use that anymore because it's been tainted. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I feel like that's a storyline or a trope in something else. Like that rings a bell. But I can't remember what else that's from. Like the idea of like you use memories for power, but those memories can be tainted. I can't remember what it would have been from, but I feel like I've heard that before.
Yeah.
But we have seen her use Silver Eyes since. Like we saw her use Silver Eyes against the Hound and stuff. So it's not like and she had all those memories we saw at the end of Volume 6, not just the last one of Summer.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Patronus, I think is that what Nightwalker said there?
Yeah.
Silver Eyes like Patronus.
Yeah, that's it. Because like in Harry Potter and Patronus, you need to think of your happiest memory, or you need to. Patronuses are born from happy memories because that way they encountered.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Negative vibes. So yeah, very. It's actually I never really thought of that. It's very nice connection there because the silver eyes, like the Patronus, when you watch away the grim and the
when you
darkness.
watch back through Volume 1, what does everyone say? Oh, this is Harry Potter meets Hunger Games.
Yeah.
You know, then people watch Game of Thrones and say it's watch season 3 and say it's Game of Thrones, and a lot of influences from a lot of different stuff. You know, and obviously like if you ever watch Red vs. Blue, there's so much influence from Red vs. Blue.
Oh, definitely.
In, like season 10 of Red vs. Blue literally has aura and semblances. They're not called that, but they have aura, they have semblances, they're all color-based. It's very similar.
RWBY is everything.
It's just, RWBY is just Red vs. Blue, but an anime.
RWBY is taken influence from a lot of things.
Like Final Fantasy is a huge influence for RWBY.
Definitely.
Monty said that, and all the Haloid and Dead Fantasy and all the stuff that he'd done before RWBY and stuff. A lot of influences from all those kind of things. But yeah, I mean, so for the rest of the season, or at least next episode, I definitely think some RWBY stuff. Obviously, maybe some more Neo. We'll finally get some more Neo explanation.
Yes.
Which would be interesting too, because we always wondered, like, how is Neo going to explain herself? Are we going to get like an Emerald-esque voice in RWBY's head, where we get like a voice of Neo? She doesn't actually talk. We get like a mental voice, whatever that is. Or we can get just I think the Jabberwockers are actually really nice. Yeah. A really nice way for Neo to talk is like through the Jabberwockers. I think that's a nice. Like, imagine like RWBY's surrounded by 10 of them.
Yeah,
they all are saying different words. But all together it makes sentences. Like then the Jabberwockers aren't speaking, but since there's like 10 of them, each one says a word of a sentence and it makes a sentence. So we hear just like this distorted sentence around for Neo to talk. That could be a really cool way to do it. So yeah, because I feel like the mind thing is more an Emerald power than Neo. So I think we get stuff like that. I think if we do get the rest of the team will just be them, like, probably. I imagine it would just be Jean and the rest of the team kind of walking and discussing, their thoughts and their reactions, and probably them like talking about RWBY and how sorry they were they didn't notice stuff and amongst themselves. I also we didn't mention it, but I like how instantly Jean was like regretful of what he said. As cathartic as what Jean said, he was very like, I know I'm crazy right now. I know I'm not in a good headspace.
Even after all this time, he still is coming.
And again, too,
what happened. Yeah.
I just realized this too. How much of a parallel is this to Ren and Yang's talk from last volume? Jean did exactly what Ren did last volume.
Yeah.
And you saw how much that upset Jean.
Yeah.
So he immediately recognized that he just did the exact same thing here. Which also might be why Ren was the only other name, like one of the named Paper Please characters. Paper Please characters. As like he was like, because like he mentioned Neptune, then the Flood, then he meant there's the RWBY one for RWBY self identity crisis, and then he mentioned Ren, which might be a tie-in to the Outburst, much like the Ren he got. I might be making stuff up there, but I like if that's a connection.
Yeah, only 2 days ago. Yeah, it was only a few days ago for them. Yeah.
Well, not for Jean.
Not for Jean, but yeah.
But for Yang.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been cool if we got more like a. I want to go back and watch that scene now and see if Yang has more reaction because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, Ren's outburst shocked Jean more than it shocked Yang, because obviously it was that last bit that pissed everyone off.
Yes.
Not so much Yang, but I would like to see if Yang had maybe reaction to Jean's outburst. But so good, so looking forward.
This volume is going to be much better binge. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I still think it's been really good week to week. To be honest, I don't think it's been
week to week.
I don't think it's. I mean, sure, most of RWBY you could probably say is better binge. Like I know Volume 5 is much better binge than it was week to week. But I don't think this volume will be necessarily better. Better binge. I don't think. I guess because the story is so tight, it's like only taking it's like we're not missing. It's not like that's always the thing. If your story has time in between episodes, like days or weeks and stuff, I think you need to have week to week stuff.
Yeah.
Like nothing frustrates me more than watching a movie in which it's implied that time passes, but there's no actual interruption.
Yes. Yeah.
Like if you're gonna have time pass, go to another scene, go to other characters.
Yeah.
There's so like I remember, like with Last of Us is a good example in terms of there's a 3-month gap in the show.
Yeah.
It casually mentioned at the start of an episode.
Yeah.
But I always forget that because I always think like, man, these characters are kind of changing very quickly. But I keep forgetting there was a 3-month break we didn't see, so that explains why there's so much development and stuff. So that's always a good point.
Yes.
So, No, it'd be good. It'd be good though when everyone can binge it for sure. And I'm sure there are plenty of people who aren't, awaiting, especially because they have to pay for Crunchyroll. People are just going to buy the 1 month or the free trial, watch it all, and then be done with it. So I'm sure there's plenty of things. And I love too, as much as like, I love Nuts and Bolts, but some of the Nuts and Bolts stuff is getting a little overhand for me. Bumblebee stuff getting a bit overhand for me personally, but like I love how much interact. I got a message from someone yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Telling me how they think that this volume has had more negative response than any they've seen, and I just thought like I don't think that's the case at all. I think everyone's been more vocal this volume than people have been more vocal than ever before, which I think is a good thing, especially with the whole green light volume 10 hashtag I saw going around as well.
Yeah.
So. And again, like these episodes are getting thousands of comments on Crunchyroll and stuff. So that's good. I think whatever's happening is going well. We'll just have to wait and see as far as Volume 10 goes. But
yes.
But
sorry, I'm yawning away here.
No, it's all good.
The second coffee. I'm about to do a long drive. Get some caffeine into me.
But no, seriously, everyone who's watched the stream live, watched the VOD on Twitch, or watched the VOD on YouTube, thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Really appreciate you guys. We love talking RWBY with each other, but we love when you guys can come and join with us. To anyone who celebrates, I wish you all a good Easter.
Yes.
Or holiday season if you have holiday seasons where you are.
That's true, Night Walker. Yes. Yeah, we went from like such a happy moment to this.
Yeah. No, but I loved it. I love this cathartic. I love anything that's cathartic and earned and aggressive and powerful and passionate. Like that's the stuff I love. So the genre stuff, I want to feel. It's weird. I don't like horror because I don't see the enjoyment of getting scared. But somehow this, which is very similar in terms of like that passion and aggression, I do love.
Yeah.
Like I love being hurt by a show, but I hate being scared.
Yeah.
Like I don't see the enjoyment of being scared, but I like the enjoyment of getting hurt.
I was so anxious watching that episode after I saw the warning. I could like feel the anxiety in my chest, like, ugh.
Yeah, it's always
I feel
interesting.
that with horror games sometimes,
Yeah, like it's always interesting. Like, do those things ruin the anticipation for the episode, or they enhance it?
Yeah.
I guess it depends who you were. I mean, at this point I expect that for every episode, so the warning doesn't do much for me because I expect that kind of anxiety and that concern regardless. But yeah, thank you everyone. Make sure we will be back next week.
Yeah. Yes. Normal next week. Yep, we will.
Yeah. So
on the Saturday.
It'll be normal time back to Saturdays or Fridays or time zones. Saturday for us. So convert from Australian Eastern Daylight
Standard.
Yeah,
we're standard now. Yeah.
Standard.
Australian Eastern Standard Time. Yeah. Daylight savings ended for us last weekend, so yes. I know. Trying to get Ellie back to waking up at 8 o'clock because I had her waking up at 8.
Oh yeah,
now we're going back. She's up at 7. It's like, oh my god.
My niece has just gone through her first daylight savings and a change and stuff, and it's always rough.
Yeah, it's already
rough for them than just for me. But yeah, I know. But thank you all, and we'll catch you next week as we'll be more incoherent notes and stuff on episode 8.
Hopefully. Yes.
Okay.
Praise the Great One. Yeah.
I hope we do get volume 10 just so I can have the penny figure. So I have the penny figure for these.
I'm so jealous of that. I would love to have got the penny figure. Oh. Yeah. I've got the RWBY one, but just RWBY. The pop-up parade. Yeah. Got RWBY. Yeah. Whoops, I just got Yang over.
Well, I just lost Chris and Rose. How apropos.
I lost Chris and Rose as well. There we go. And Crescent Rose.
Mine's a bit dusty.
Oh, the sight's a little broken. It's not broken, it's come out. There we go.
Also, I know I have blood, so you can't see it right now, but I have my Oscar cane here. Yeah. It's just sitting there. Like, there's nothing holding it up. It's been there for about 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's still there.
One time. Yeah. And
I know you have Crescent Rose in your background as well.
I also have my Crescent Rose that I made. Yeah.
Awesome. That's so cool. So cool.
It is really cool.
All right, guys.
Yes.
We'll see you next week. So until then, have a good week and enjoy the holiday season if you celebrate or you have it.
Yes, I'm going to play the YouTube outro now. I'm started cheating, so those on the stream are going to see it as well. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you later.
Guys.
Bye.
Sorry for the technical difficulties. Hopefully the speaker didn't come through.
Nah, I think it was all
Hopefully.
good. Okay, bye.